Hey guys, thank you so much for joining another episode of Inspired by MsAmberRed. Today I am here with Brisa
Hi.
and myself, and we also have Kat joining us all the way from Australia. So I'm going to let her go ahead and introduce herself and let you guys know a little bit about her.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. And it's really early over here, so awesome to be with you. My name's Kat McCann. I'm a cosmetic medical tattooist here in Brisbane, Australia. I've been tattooing probably about 10 years now, pretty much specialising more so in that sort of restorative and corrective side, maybe for the last 4 or 5 years. But yeah, love it. And yeah, excited to be here. So yeah, thanks.
Her
This is my
accent.
first podcast as well, so
Your first podcast? That's funny.
yeah.
Are you nervous?
Sorry?
Are you nervous?
Yeah.
You're so funny. Okay, so you've been how long did you say you've been tattooing again?
Nearly 10 years, yeah. This will be my 10th
Nearly 10 years.
Yeah.
Oh, girl, we've been tattooing about the same time. Brisa, how many years you been tattooing now?
Three-ish
years.
Yeah.
I have Brisa here is because I feel like you and I like coming in from like 10-year standpoint, and then we can also have Brisa chime in on like the 3-year standpoint, because I remember what it was like being 3 years in.
Mhm.
And it's funny because I think Brisa is hitting that right now.
Yes.
She's like, great, you're gonna throw me into the bus. So she's been just smooth sailing for a while, like cruising along, no issues, no nothing, and then wham, she like hit a little, I don't know,
It's like what do you mean a little?
she just fell off.
I know.
Something happened recently with Brisa's lips, and we're not sure what's going on, but I think sometimes we have like our ups and downs, right? So it's like, oh, we're doing great. Even I still have like ups and downs. It's like we'll have the best clients and the best skin and the best this, and Brisa's had probably for the last at least month some really, really difficult skin. So I know that's definitely played a role in it, and you know, it happens, and then we just have to figure out what, you know, like how to get past it, I guess. And those things, I always think like those things make you better. So you said you kind of specialized more in restorative tattooing, which I'm glad you mentioned, because I do want to talk to you about that a little bit.
Sure.
Do you feel that restorative tattooing is definitely like, I just kind of answered the question. Do you feel it's more advanced? Sorry, I'm sick, you guys. I'm going to put a disclaimer because I keep like, so don't mind that. But Kat, do you feel like it is a more advanced thing, like in that it takes years to build up your skill set? And so tell us a little bit about that, in your opinion on that.
Look, 100%, I feel like, definitely not only the fact that obviously as you go through your basics, you're doing your foundations, you're understanding obviously the different skin types, different contraindications, the different parameters that, you know, present when you're just doing normal, like eyebrows, lips, eyeliner, those sorts of things. So when it comes to scars or any type of restorative, generally there's been a type of trauma, whether it's accident, injury, whether there's a medical impairment, or somebody's, you know, sick from something, all of those sorts of factors then add an extra layer of complexity, I would say, on whatever you're doing in the work or the treatment. And a lot of the time too, it's not just a matter of, oh, look, let's just mix up a color that matches and just like whack it in the skin, because quite frankly, you may or may not get lucky, and scarring or restorative stuff can be really quite, I would say, unpredictable in many cases if you are not in control of those parameters and obviously it prepped properly. In short, definitely a much more complex type of treatment, and something I certainly wouldn't be jumping into without the adequate, you know, knowledge and underpinning to be able to know why you do what you do and what that predictable outcome would be, particularly especially when clients have had, you know, previous traumas, or they've been through like heavy duty sort of sicknesses and things. The last thing that they want is that unpredictability. So yeah, that would be
right. Absolutely. I feel like, I mean, I've been teaching other artists now for about 8 years. I mean, I was going to say more so like even recently, but I think it's always just kind of been like a steady pace over the last 8 years or so. And what I have always kind of stuck to is having, I mean, I even did it with the girls, like you start with eyebrows, because if you fuck something up on an eyebrow, you can fix it a little bit easier than you can of an eyeliner, of a lip. So I think it's like developing those skills leading up to the next area of the body, right? So it's like I go from brows, eyeliner to lips, and that's just how I decide, to teach somebody. I feel like if you mess up lips, thankfully Brisa hasn't like messed up hardcore lip. It's always been, we did do lightning on one recently because it had some dark patches, but it actually, thank freaking goodness, it worked. But so when situations like that happen, having the skill set that you've built up along the way to be able to then feel confident, even though my armpits were sweaty during that, but to feel confident, to be able to help out in a situation like that, especially if you're thinking about being a trainer and being a teacher in that sense, because it's like, we see stuff in our own everyday clients that we're like, well, that was weird, because skin is skin. You never know how something's going to heal.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like having those tools in your pocket to be able to like think quickly and be able to adjust. And it's like, that's where Brisa's at right now with those lips that she keeps. She's like, Amber, what's happening? Her lip blushes are fine, but you introduce like a darker color, you're going to see every little mess up. It's like putting it under a magnifying mirror. You're going to see it like 10,000 times more than you would that of a soft pink lip blush. So,
and I think just based on, like even going back to what you just said before, you don't know what you don't know. And skin, there's so many different types. There's parameters around that. Sometimes someone's got scars through there. Sometimes they've got, volume loss. Sometimes they've got different shaped teeth, all of those kinds of things. And I suppose at least having the context and the awareness is amazing, so that you're actually able to then sort of pivot and turn. You might learn one way, but there's not necessarily an exact way. Potentially, if you've got something from here, then you're going to have to combine those to be able to make that treatment plan moving forward and get that consistent result as well. So 100% you're mentioning before, at least having the different tools to be able to do that. And I think in about 3 years, you're at that stage where you're kind of super confident and you're like, yeah, this is good. I'm actually getting a handle on this. I've got, like a few hundred good heels coming in, and then bam, all of a sudden, you've got this field and you're kind of rocking in the corner going, what the heck? Or, have you got someone that you can ring and sort of go, well, look, I've got this is what I think, and brainstorm. Having that network around at the same time is always really valuable. But yeah.
Absolutely.
They're lucky that they've got.
I think Brisa came in, she goes, I don't know. What would you say? You said something like, did I forget what I'm doing? Like, did I forget how to do this or something?
Oh, yeah.
He's like, I don't know what's going on. I think I forgot what I'm doing or something. I was like, no, it's about that time where, we've all been through it. It's like the ups and downs. It's like you get good skin, you're on a roll, and then all of a sudden you ain't got good skin, and you're okay. Well, now we got to try. That didn't work. So now we got to figure out what is working.
Yeah.
And do you do a training?
Yes. Yeah. I get asked all the time about training. Generally, the sort of beginnery stuff. I kind of feel like my passion's more in that sort of technical training, the advanced skill refinement side of things. I've come to the conclusion I'm definitely not a basic foundation trainer. I just need everyone to know everything. So it's too much. You and I have had these conversations many times, just with respect to, different things, like even our presentation last year. It's like, let's just keep it simple. I'm like, yeah, but what about this? And what about this? Let's keep it simple. So, I really love the contextually based underpinning of why we do what we do. I used to put people back together after autopsies in a previous life. And so for me, it's all around, the skin will cope with this, or it won't cope with that, or it will respond like this, or if we add this XYZ pressure, or if we color shift like this is what the expectation is going to be as a result of, these parameters. And so I know in some cases people go, how is that even relevant? But it's like, you've got age, you've got wellness, you've got, different sort of skin and all of these sorts of things that add to it. You're never going to get a sound foundation where there's not something. But yeah, so when you're talking about sort of, I suppose, more technical training. For me, 100% like what you said before, you bring it back, it's something methodical. There's a whole bunch of parameters that you can't miss or that you can't consider or undertake it without missing. And so I suppose it's just about, establishing those and then being able to build on that. And yeah, the one-to-one would be probably where I sort of like to sit. So that at least people understand, you're able to sort of build on their existing skills and what they're sort of wanting to get, and then add that value, which will really ultimately elevate where they're at in their own career. So
I like the newbies.
Hey,
you like the more advanced ones. I said I like teaching the newbies.
I know.
Word, but I hate trying to unteach somebody their habit, like they got a bad habit. I hate trying to get them to, because they'll keep doing it and I'm like, stop doing that, and then they'll keep doing it. I'm like, if you do that one more time, like I cannot, like if somebody's like, I haven't tattooed in 4 years, I'm gonna be like, Kat, I got somebody for you to teach. Because I'm like, they're just too set in their ways for me. I'm like, well, I don't know why you're doing that. It doesn't make sense. And then they'll try to, well, it did this because it did this and it works this way and I do it this way. I don't care how you do things. Like, you're here to learn a specific way. Like, it's always the ones that have been tattooing that are like, yeah, but I'm like, no, but it's not working. Like, that's why, otherwise you wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
So it's unteaching those bad habits. It frustrates me so much. I'm like, Risa knows. I'm like, I will just shut off. They'll tell me, like, during a training class, we get it, not too often, but we do get it from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
Or somebody will come in and they're there to learn the specific technique and they're remixing it and they're doing it their own way. And I'm like, after five times telling them, I'm like, I'm done. I'm checked out.
I literally see it in your face. You're just trying to like your face just goes and you side-eye me and you're like, what the fuck?
I'm like, Brisa, she's doing that thing. She's doing that thing. I've told her 5 times and here I am. I'm like, okay, do it your way then.
Yeah. And
you just paid me $4,500 and now you're going to do it your way and you're not learning the right way. Like,
you can
see
I can't do that. Learning. It's so prevalent all the time. One of the things that I always sort of ask people, I suppose, when they sort of come to training, that, oh, can you teach me? And it's like some favor or something. I'm like, no, get this done first and then come back to me in like 2 or 3 years at least, because otherwise you can't add value if you have got no clinical experience or salon experience or wherever you're working from. How are you able to leverage or case study or workshop different experiences and then link it back? Because for me, it's like so important. Like, I am such a storyteller and I like to understand what it is and why it's relevant and, and how that sort of applies in that practical sense as well. So I guess that different type of learning, if you don't have that in the first place, how are you able to sort of go, oh yeah, I know what you're doing? For me, it's like you have to understand to get the value or else you're wasting your time.
Yeah. Brisa this is kind of off topic, kind of not, but we were talking a little bit like, what are we going to talk about? She brought up a good point. I wanted to touch base on, because Australia and the US is very different. Well, training wise, it's different, but also like product wise, like in numbings and things like that. Like, so it's very interesting to me that you guys have to have like a prescription. So like, tell us a little bit about that. So that they get a prescription, it's formulated for them or something, and then they pick it up and they bring it to you or something.
So here, because basically what we had, I suppose our government's nice and reactive, which is good and sometimes hindering in the same sense. But basically people were buying, bulk anesthetic off Alibaba or eBay or, places that they have no idea, or little sachets with 0 ingredients. And so essentially they had a massive spate of people that were basically getting systemic absorption. They were getting sick from numbing. They were having allergic reactions. They were having I suppose unprecedented reactions like swellings and everything else that comes with it. And one person particularly in Sydney, she was having a procedure done and actually suffered a cardiac arrest due to, overabsorption or systemic absorption of the anesthetic that was also being applied on top of the fillers that also had anesthetic. So it was very reactive, but essentially they've got drugs and poisons legislation here, and there is a certain schedule within that legislation. And so for us with the anesthetic, because we're not doctors and nurses being permanent makeup artists or cosmetic tattooists or anything, we come under what the legislation would classify as like a carer, in terms of being able to, because there's a gap in the commercial market for anesthetic, like for example your tag or your ultra duration or any of those sorts of ones where you can apply excuse me, to broken skin. For here, we don't have anything on the market, essentially. So we're able to then go back to compounders or pharmacists that make the anesthetic from scratch. And so they have basically like different recipes. So, they've got different bases, they've got different levels and percentages and things like that in them. So they develop the anesthetic for cosmetic, tattoo and skin penetration purposes. And so under this legislation, as long as it's under 10%, so, you might do 4.5% Tetchcane, Lignocaine, Prilocaine, and then it comes in at 10%, you can do like a 0.01 or 0.02% epinephrine, which will then, constrict vessels and stuff. But you get to determine what your basis is. Is it a sorbolene base? Is it an aqueous base? Is it, all of these different bases? Is it a gel? Is it a liquid? And you can basically create those recipes. And then because of that gap, you go to your pharmacist, like compounder, and they will make it for you. So specific to the client. And so again, linking back to us not being doctors and nurses and having that sort of pharmacy consult, the client, so we've basically got a client intake form, and so they fill that in, and it's like have you got this, have you got blood pressure, have you got asthma, diabetes, whatever, all of this bits and pieces in there, and that goes to the pharmacist, and they are almost like a pre-screen to be able to then, if there's anything that, they need to sort of change or amend, then they'll do that. And then they'll basically make up that anesthetic and post it to us. So the client has to pay for it. We're not allowed to include it, apply it, supply it, anything. There are some topicals that you can buy on the market, but they're very basic, and it's kind of like, like your EMLA or anything, which is kind of, it'll make your skin real spongy and bouncy and change the sort of, the structure of the skin, so make tattooing hard. So essentially, all of our clients, like for example, process for us is you send them the link, or they go into the compounder, they're like, oh, hey, I'm getting, tattooing done, or whatever the case is. And so whether or not it fits scars or removals or something, you would order an anesthetic that doesn't have epinephrine in it, and then, otherwise if it's a different type, or, lips or something vascular or something, you'd go for something that did have that, and then obviously would block out that pain, and you can continue to use it through. But it was tricky in the beginning, because obviously, you would have clients that sort of go, oh, but I went to such and such place and they just include it. And I'm like, yeah, unfortunately that's like illegal. It's like a $13,000 fine or something epic. And so what they started to do it with the licensed premises, which, you have to have your skin penetration license and all the councils and bits and pieces that wherever is relevant that people are working in, they would actually then link into the different investigators like environmental health or anything like that. And they would send people out and actually audit records. So if you have had XYZ amount of clients and you're saying, oh, yeah, no, we've had the anesthetic compounded, or this is the anesthetic, because on the anesthetic, actually, I'll show you. Hold on a sec. Like we get it in these little sort of tubes. And so it's only about 10 grams. But basically it'll have the person's, I don't know if you can sort of see it, but it'll have the person's name. Yeah, it'll have the name, it'll have the ingredients. So everything is on here. And then obviously it has the directions, and then it has a little expiry and a batch number. So that in terms of compliance, we're following manufacturer's instructions. So on the consult, you have to have this disclaimer with the wording, I think it's to the effect of, whilst in this person's care, I authorize them to, apply, the anesthetic or whatnot. They're the manufacturers, they're the instructions. We follow it, put it on. So technically, anything that goes wrong with anesthetic, or if they have any reaction, or if they have something go wrong, it's on the pharmacies. Yeah. So it's on their insurance, and so that tends to cover that side of it. But the good part is you get, like, there's lots of different sort of variations, like I said, different bases, different ways that they can sort of have it, like it's liquid or gel. And then you basically, you find something that you like and you apply it. And most of the time my clients go to sleep. It's actually really good. You don't need a script for a certain percentage. Obviously doctors and injectors and things like that, they can sort of, prescribe sort of more, but I tend to find that, the 10% plus a little bit of epi is more than enough. it keeps people nice and comfortable. But from a legislative perspective, that's basically where we have to adhere. And then obviously making sure that, you know, if you do get audited or if they do send, you know, representatives out, that you can validate, here is the process, this is what it looks like, because they'll come out and they'll say to you, what does it look like for your clients in that sense. So being able to sort of do that and provide that is pretty important. But
it sounds like so much work, but I'm sure it's just because I just feel like people are flaky too. I'm like, oh gosh, now we had to make them accountable for going to get their numbing. Plus, like half the people can't even get to their appointment on time, let alone make an appointment to get their numbing cream. I'm like, oh gosh.
I suppose it was like a headache in the beginning, but now you're just like used to it.
Now it's just like normal. Yeah.
Yeah. And like my consults with people are really comprehensive. So there is no, again, super methodical, and they know exactly what to expect. You're going to get this. This is the link. This is what it looks like. This is where you need to go. If you get stuck, this is your contact. It is a bit of a pain in the ass sometimes when there's like people that are like, I don't know computers or whatever. So we've always got workarounds for like, okay, well, they'll assist you. Give them a phone call. Here's the phone number. And essentially, and I kind of say to people that, you know, I get what you know, like you'll have some people go, oh, I don't really need any numbing. I'm like, you know what? Your numbing's actually not for you. It's for me to make sure I can get through the procedure and that you're actually right. You know, have a good job in the end. So, you know, and alternatively, if they say, oh, I'll just go and, you know, I'll get this little cream and I've got this off the internet, and I'm like, what date is it expired? Because half the time it's like, I've got no idea. And I said, look, the reality is for me, predictability of our outcome is like so important. And so I want to be able to control every single element, and that includes what your numbing is and then what that's going to do to your skin. So when I tattoo it, we're not going to have bouncy, thickened, you know, rank skin or anything like that. So yeah, that's from a numbing perspective. Welcome to Australia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I wonder, we should have told a backstory of how you and I met.
Okay, just tell it. Tell it.
Well, wait, I'm trying to figure out how we even crossed paths. What was the original path? Like,
I don't know. Internet.
We were on Instagram. Yeah. Yeah, I think we were just talking like on Instagram or something, right? Like, and then one thing led to another. I'm like, how did we cross paths? I can't remember the exact moment, but anyways, I know it was on social media, and I just remember like, I want to come to Australia. Sure, I'll come to Australia. Cool. Want to do this speech? Sure, I'll do this speech with you. And I'm like, no, everybody's like, did you even think that through? I'm like, no, I didn't think that through. I was like, hopefully she's not a murderer. I was like, she said I could stay at her house, but I'm gonna stay somewhere else, like just in case.
Yeah, no, and I mean,
looking at me like, you're going to Australia to meet up with somebody that you've never met except for online, and you've said you're going to do a presentation with her, and you guys never have really talked before. I'm like, yep, that sounds about right.
Yeah, because I mean, and too, like adding context to that, like we're so not weirdos like that. Everyone meets on social media now, but you know, the amount of times that we've, you know, workshopped different things or talked about the similar topics, and it's kind of like you pick up what you put down and vice versa. And it was kind of like we both, I remember sort of going, do we need to practice this? We're not sweet. And like we're getting up at one of the biggest sort of industry events here in Australia, and we're like, you've been practicing? Like, nah, we'll be fine.
No. I was working on the presentation as I was getting on the plane because we were busy doing something. I can't remember what we were busy doing. Both of us you were moving and stuff. So I was like, you know what? I was like, I can do this. I'll just do this on the airplane. It's fine.
Yeah. And it was so funny because
turned out great.
It did. And how fun was it? We're like, we've just dropped this. Like, don't worry about it. We'll do this. And like do a workaround, and and like before we got on the stage,
I just dropped the one pencil I brought with me on the ground in front of all of the people, and had nothing else to draw with except for pigment and a toothpick, but it's fine.
Yeah. And then, you know, and then I'm like, okay, well, we'll talk about this, and you know, and it was fun. It was just rolled. But I suppose ultimately you always get a vibe with different people, and you know, I feel like when you're sort of in that similar sort of area, that space, that sort of same page, it makes it a lot easier to work with people that, you know, you're not drained by, or you actually get value out of, or you can be authentic and, you know, not feel like there's something out of that. You're actually sort of gaining and learning and doing. And I think that was probably essentially where we both kind of came together around, this is actually like really fun. And then after we finished Hey.
Like the way, like you can kind of tell, like the way people respond to people online, or the way people are, it's almost like you can tell, like, oh, she's like has the same outlook on things or the same views on things, like very similar, like like just similar thoughts and ideas about the industry. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be fine. Brisa said I'm very Sagittarius for that. Kat, what's your sign? What's your zodiac sign?
Taurus.
Oh, you're Taurus. You know, I get along with Tauruses usually, like until I don't. But I'm just kidding. That's funny, and she said their fault too. I'm just kidding. Sagittarius wouldn't say that.
Yeah. No.
Oh my goodness.
I think what's really good too is, you know, and we've talked about this at previous sort of stages as well, is that sometimes, you know, like you're at a certain level or you're at a certain stage in your career, and you know there's not a lot that you haven't seen and done, or there's not a lot of people, I suppose, in your close little knit circle where you feel you can go, oh my god, fuck, you know, this is going wrong, or this is this, or how do I come around a different way of thinking of something. And I feel like we've got that, you know, and you know, obviously our 16-hour time difference always sort of makes it different, so we'll leave lots of voice messages and stuff, but yeah, I feel like those sorts of things are super valuable. And I guess going back to Brisa, with your 3 years, you're so lucky to have such a supportive group around you, and you know that insight and that knowledge, because the people that you have exposure to and the circumstances and the experiences and everything at your career will seriously, like when you get to your sort of 7 to 10 years, you'll be like, oh my god, I didn't realize the value of that community and that sort of, you know, level of support until you retrospectively get to look back on that. So I always feel hindsight's such a powerful thing, but you know, that's awesome.
It's funny, you're right, because I look back on it too, and I'm like, as much as, you know, you could say this, that, or the other, it's like, if I could do it all over again, I would put myself right back in a group situation again, because I hear and you see people that have started from the get-go, like on their own. It's just like you're exposed, being in a group setting, you're exposed to 10 times the more skin, 10 times the more what the fuck situations, 10 times the more thoughts and ideas. It's just like, when it's like, I feel like, okay, being almost, you know, 10 years in, it's like, really, it feels like I've been here for 20 years because I've been exposed to so much, versus somebody that's been in the industry and they started, they're on their own, they had their own little studio, they never had the team or listening to like a mentor around them, or other artists for that matter, like popping in and out of rooms and seeing all the different things. It's like, it definitely takes you like 10 times further ahead than somebody that's out there doing it on their own.
Yeah, 100%. And like the ability to workshop, you know. How are we going for time, guys? Because I'm conscious.
I just looked at Brisa and I was like, right, Brisa? Just shake your head. Yes.
Yeah, workshopping as well. Like, you know, for example, like I know with, you know, students and things like that I have, and obviously mentoring, you know, that early artist career support, I'm massive around, you know, workshopping stuff. So it's like, you know, if you get this situation, why would you do this? Or if you have these sorts of things come up, what's your thoughts around how you would deconstruct this and form a sort of, you know, a plan moving forward? I feel like when you've got the group, or when you've got that alternative insight, it's so powerful. And, you know, you only know what you know. And that was the other thing that I think is so valuable. And I mean, even touching on you coming over here, it was like I've you know, I've trained in America, and I've trained, you know, in Asia, and I've trained in all these crazy places, and it's kind of like you invest in the experience, and whether or not, you know, as long as you take one or two things away essentially from what you get, there's no right or wrong, but it's the exposure. Like I remember being in Vietnam and training with like a crazy, you know, famous trainer, and he was like amazing. And, you know, like for me early in my career, I'm like, if I could list the best trainers in my brain at the time, I'm like, I want to go and I'll, you know, make it my purpose. I'm going to go and train with this person, this person, this person. And then, you know, in my thoughts, I'm like, I'm going to be learning from the best from the outset. And then that will sort of, you know, curate how I, you know, turn into an artist moving forward. And it was like, I remember being in like, yeah, in Vietnam, and I've got one, like they're learning an advanced shaded, you know, magic shading liner or something. I can't even remember what it's called, but everyone's like 25 people over the top. You've got one model, you know, in the middle, and you've got one person working on this side, one person working on this. Eyes. they're working on their face at the same time. And I'm just sitting there going, oh my God, like, you know, when in Vietnam, like, that's cool. Like, I had never seen that. And like for here, we'd be like, oh, you know, why would you do that? Or that's scary, or you're going to have two different eyes. And she did have two different eyes because it was two different people. But it was just like this exposure and this experience. I'm like, man, that's so cool, but so scary all at the same time. But it shapes you as an artist, and it gives you so much insight, which I always say to people, it's the adventure, and that will shape you moving forward. So it's either an ordeal.
Yeah, I think I think that's why I say yes to like the craziest, most random situations, because I'm like, well, what's the worst case that could happen?
Yeah.
I mean, I've tattooed in the dark before, you know, it's fine. well, I better not talk about that. Like we had phones above for me to finish up when I was out there in Australia. Remember?
Yeah,
we had the phone.
Yeah,
was shit in the back, so I had the phone. We were looking for light spots in our eyebrows.
Yeah,
thankfully I had a battery pack, but it's like, I don't know, I guess putting yourself in those types of situation allows you to like, one, not overreact in any situation, and two, it's like thinking quick on your toes. It's just like building up all those little puzzle pieces along the way.
Totally.
Like all these puzzle pieces that you have and then putting it together to figure out a tough situation. It's the same thing when you travel around like that. It's like you just kind of, well, drop my pencil. Now next time I know I need to bring 2 pencils with me instead of 1.
Yeah, exactly. And like, you know, when we're like, oh, have we got a power pack, or have we got an adapter, or have we got, you know, the right cord, or here's a battery, like whatever it is, you've got that insight and that context to go, yep, cool, it's fine, we can work around this, and there's no sweat. You just like do it, and then you come off and you're like, I remember at the end we're like, freaking hell, we just
what the fuck?
We were actually amazing, you know. And
yeah,
it was so fun. So yeah, I'm glad that, you know, we're both bold enough to go, well, what about this? And then it's like there's this crazy idea, and we're like, just breathe life into it, and it comes to fruition. So yeah, I love that. It's not being scared.
I work well under pressure too. It's like one of my favorite things. I'm like, I always put everything off. Sorry, my head is killing me. This darn cold. Like I put everything off till the last minute. It's one of my bad toxic traits, but I'm like, it always makes me get it done, and I always do very well. So whatever.
Yeah.
What else do we want to ask her? What else were we talking about back in the studio? Somebody said something about some kangaroos.
Oh, yeah.
Let's ask some Australia fun questions.
All right.
Are there kangaroos in your backyard?
No, and not crocodiles, and not koalas, and any of that stuff. It's kind of like they're in sanctuary.
Have you ever had a snake come out of your toilet?
No, I would how did the snake come out of it? I don't live in like the bush. I actually, Amber, remember your mum.
The bush.
Remember your mum, and do they wear the same clothes as us, or what? Stop commenting to you. And I'm like,
my mom's like, do they wear the same clothes? They look the same.
yeah. So
I saw TikTok, somebody filming a snake coming out of their toilet.
In Australia?
No, but it was in like New York.
Oh.
Out of all the places, New York.
So you thought Australia?
I was like, you know, why not? They have snakes there.
No, I think.
Have you ever been chased by a kangaroo?
No. I'm not even going to say like they shoot them sometimes, like to kill them.
No, for what?
Like in area. Well, okay, I'm pretty sure that they do culling in some areas. Well, they definitely do with rabbits. And do you know it's actually in our state here? It's actually illegal. You can't keep a rabbit, like a bunny,
as like a pet.
You can't. Now it's like some epic fine of like $25,000 or something ridiculous. But yeah, you're not allowed to. Whereas you can go 5, kilometers down the road into the next state, and they've got bunnies. So sometimes, in that sort of little border area, you'll see them like hopping around in the bush.
Weird. What other weird laws do you guys have?
Oh my God, we're so overregulated. It's like, do not sip from the hop cup. Like, where is the sense of like, use your brain and some common sense? Fuck me. Australia, I love it. But I feel like we're so regulated and so, do this and do this and do this. People get scared. And I feel like that like, I suppose like my dad was a judge, so I kind of grew up with an insight of, well, why don't we question this, and why is this, and why is, and where does it say no? And maybe that's kind of where my little bit of a shift comes in. I'm like, no, I'm going to come up with a solution or a strategy or something. Whereas other people are like, nope, not allowed. Not allowed. The law says this or the rules say that. I'm like, oh, really? Where? But essentially, I feel like it's good because obviously there's lots of order and stuff, but people I tend to feel sometimes get a little bit scared, like and you'll see it all over the place with trainings and stuff. You're like, oh, I'm not allowed to do this because I've only been trained with this needle on this needle. And I'm like, do you ever like experiment? Do you ever have like a little go or try, even if it's like in the quiet in your own space? No, I haven't been trained. Really? Okay, let's move through this.
You're like, no, just go to the studio and try that 11 mag.
Yeah, dilution? What's that? I've never been trained. I'm like, it's dilution. How do you not?
Yeah.
Like
you don't know.
You don't know what you don't know. But people, I feel like for here, and I mean, it's got its goods and its bads, but it's kind of like, I feel like that then like commercialism can definitely come into play with that, because I'm like, no, I've learned eyebrows, but I don't know how to do hair strokes, and I don't know how to do nano. And what about powder and ombre? Oh, I need a separate $20 million course for that.
My gosh. Here it's like the complete opposite. I feel like they're like, oh, I watched it on YouTube, I am an expert.
Well, look, we get that as well. And that's when I have people sort of go, oh yeah, look, I've already learned that. I'm like, oh yeah, so talk to me about it, because you can clearly see that there's disparity between what they say and what they do, because that's two different.
Yeah, the disconnect is there.
Yeah, and
if they don't know their needles, they don't know nothing.
Oh, that's true. Good answer, Brisa. If they don't know their needles.
Yeah, everyone honestly is an expert everywhere. And so I guess the next question leads to, and I don't think that's just an Australian thing, I think that, or an American thing, I think that's everywhere. Everyone has a great marketing budget, and they have this amazing persona online, and then they have all this like accolades and a million things, and then that whatever that constitutes to be amazing or an expert, I always just sort of go, yeah, your output and your impact, for the world, that'll determine your expertise. But that's a different topic altogether.
What is new and exciting? Because I actually haven't got to talk to you either lately, because we've both been busy and I've been sick for forever. Yeah. What is new and exciting, and what's coming up for you that we can talk about?
Okay.
We got about 10 minutes. I want to brag on you. What do you got going on?
We've got, oh gosh, new and exciting. I've got some Australian awards that I got invited to judge. So that's, I don't know, I have to find a profile pic for that. So that's probably on my today list to send. What else? I just did an aesthetics conference where I talked about scars, which was amazing. That was obviously plastic surgeons and dermatologists and like good, a really, on audience, which I always find is amazing, because you get some really quality connections, and obviously that sort of real stakeholder engagement, and I suppose awareness around that type of treatment actually exists, because a lot of the time, we live in our own sort of little permanent makeup world, and we're like, yeah, this is like so popular and this, but the external, like the community or the outer profession, sometimes I don't even know that that's a thing. So actually, funny story just on that, and slightly digressing, but I did a lecture in to the Australian Dental Association, or dental, a dentist convention, and I was talking about sort of oral feature restoration, so cleft palate malformation, all of that sort of stuff. And I had one of the dentists in the audience, and they put their hand up, and I'm on stage. I'm like, yep, how can I help? She goes, in PMU, what does the U stand for? And I literally I'm like, the piss, like, is this? And up. And she said, permanent make up. Anyway, and it was the most simplistic thing. And I'm like, no, she's actually like dead set serious. And I answered, and I was very professional. And obviously I was like sitting there and thinking, I seriously live in like a little cotton ball world of all these things I think people know, but it's incredible externally. Yeah. Like, we do this every day. And I think that was such a light bulb moment for me to sort of go, yeah, you kind of just, you think everyone knows what you know, but they don't. And so anyway, so learning from that, because I always treat everything like, okay, what can I get from this, or what's the lesson, or how can I be better? And so yeah, moving forward. So now obviously that's in terms of simplicity and delivery, that's always something I took away. But anyway, and then coming up, sorry, that was just like a little tangent. It's like, oh, but
squirrel.
And then yeah, I think we've got the Australian Beauty Expo coming up again in August. So
yeah, that's the one that I came to.
That was the one that we did together last year. So I've got 3 lectures on that. Actually, one of the cool things.
That's fun.
Yeah, I'm actually doing a segment on.
What month is that in?
Hey,
what month is that coming up?
That's August. Yeah,
August.
That's what I was saying to you. I'm like, yeah, can we tee our dates up, because August goes into September.
Yeah,
that's another story. Anyway, but yeah, one of the things that I'm actually doing a segment on freehand brow mapping. So mapping by eye, where you don't measure and you don't do that. And anyway, so that's going to be super fun. And also the legalities of informed consent. So for example, when you do your consult, are you across what you're doing, how it's going to age, the type of style that you're doing, the pigments, all of that kind of stuff. So when people come to you and you're doing all these crazy trends, or you're doing, different styles, are they properly informed? And I suppose from a legality perspective, and a botched work perspective, we've got all these sort of people, experts, that are doing expert work and making my book of corrections just like longer and longer, which I'm so grateful for. So thank you. Keep doing it, but not doing it. And so I feel like it's incredibly important that the education side of that, particularly from an artist and a level of professionalism, is actually brought to light, because so many times I've had consultations, like even as much as yesterday, and I said to this lady who wanted these massive big wings, and she's got like super hooded lids, and I'm like, do you understand that this is going into your skin, and you're not going to get the wings? But from her mind, she's like, yeah, but I put makeup on. And I'm like,
yeah,
2 totally different beasts. Like the education and that level of informed sort of information, I feel, is so important and incredibly lacking, because obviously you can't teach that in like a day or 2 or online or without experience.
I'm giving you a homework assignment.
Yeah. So
your homework assignment is pull up a class for that freehand brow mapping thing that you're doing. non-brow mapping. That's going to be your first class on Inspired. Okay. Write that shit down.
Radio.
Because that's exactly what I do with brows 90%, like probably 98% of the time. So, but I could never figure out how to explain to somebody. I'm like, you just look at it. But that would be the class. It would say you just look at it.
I know. I think
so. If you figure out how to explain that, make that a class, you'll be a billionaire.
Oh my God.
There you go.
It's on, because I've got, that is one of my main stage demos at Expo. So
there you go. It'll already be half done.
No, I haven't started it.
I like it.
I haven't started it yet. I'm going to make it up on the day. No, actually, like last time. No.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. All right, girl, we're about out of time, I think. We're running out of time here. I know we could talk for like days. We need to catch up soon. Yeah. And yeah, Brees, you got any final thoughts? Anything you want to ask Miss Australian?
I don't know. Miss Australia.
Miss Australia.
I want to visit Australia.
Yeah, she wants to visit Australia.
Well, Amber, maybe we can do an artist exchange.
I mean, actually, it was like, do we put a little nugget of that in this episode? Do you want to you want to end it on that, or you just want to leave it at that and make people wonder?
We'll get them wondering, and then we can come at it.
Yeah, an artist exchange program between the U.S. and Australia. So stay tuned for those details, because we've actually been talking about that for at least a year. So. Yeah. All right, girl. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And don't forget to
like, comment, subscribe,
and share. Thank you guys so much. And Kat, hang out for just a minute, because wait. I have to tell them her tag.
Oh.
You guys, hold on, pause. Sorry. We do want you to like, comment, share, and subscribe. But real quick, Kat, what is your IG handle so they can find you?
Yeah, so Kat, Kat McCann, McCann _ Inca, INKA.
And then your website information?
Yep, Inca on Oxford. So incaonoxford.com. I don't
And I'm also going to drop that in the comment for you guys to check out so you guys can give her a follow and definitely hit her up if you guys are local to Australia. Okay, now we can end this episode. All right, guys. Thank you so much.
Bye.